fight the foe, scoring touchdowns for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the Grey Cups won. Go Argos, go, go, go! Scoring touchdowns for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the Grey Cups won. Go Argos, go Toronto, go. Go Argos, go, go, go.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the 5th year of the Argo Bounce Podcast show with co-hosts Chris Pomay and Nick Small, a weekly independent talk show devoted to the CFL's 19-time Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts. And this is our first episode in 6 long months. It's been a very long off season as the Argos had a really disappointing season last year at 5-13, and a lot going on with training camp back at the University of Guelph for the 6th straight year. My 5th year as media covering the team, and the 5th year of doing the Argo Bounce podcast show with my co-host and friend who is here for another season, Nick Small. Hey, Nick, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Looking forward to being back. I'm glad we got another year of Argonauts and CFL football to cover. Definitely a long off season. Did you get up to anything interesting over the last 6 months?
Just continue to do my other 2 shows and do my freelance media work and get more opportunities with the National Football League, and just continue to doing what I'm doing. And I building my media company, CDP Media Productions, up and getting more opportunities and going to butter tart festivals and becoming a butter tart judge as well.
Ooh, nothing wrong with that. I can say I probably have most people beat in their plans during the off season. I got to go to Japan in November and December. Fantastic experience. Had a really amazing trip. Phenomenal country, and something I recommend that if whatever place you have on your bucket list, take the opportunity to go, especially if you're around my age and you're still young. It's an unbelievable experience, and something I know I'm going to be talking about for at least the next 10 years. Hopefully get the chance to go again in the relative near future.
Unfortunately, with the price of gas, that's going to affect the airline industry as well. So, but I'm glad you had a great trip, Nick. And on my bucket list is Italy, Australia, and the Netherlands. So those are my
choices.
And Japan would be, because I've heard a lot of people who really like that. Now, did you bring any of your CFL swag down to Japan?
Yes, I did. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. One thing that I started doing this past season was I started up my own podcast show, a small history podcast. There's only 2 episodes right now, but I do have one that should be out by tomorrow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk through the 21 days of my trip and talk about sites, travel, getting around, food, all that kind of stuff. And as you'll see in some of the photos, if you're interested, and if anybody else listening is interested and goes on, you can see that there. So there'll be images of me in my Argo swag that I represented proudly all throughout Japan, and mostly in Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka.
Where can our audience find your podcast? And are you going to have guests come on your show?
Yeah, so it's on. It's called A Small History Podcast, pun intended on the name. It's available on YouTube right now, and I'm looking into expanding it. Probably just keeping it YouTube and maybe Spotify. So that's it. I want to give a shout out to Rick at Hamilton Sports Central. Thanks for tuning in, and looking forward to our first show of the season.
Absolutely. And Rick says Italy, Netherlands, Denmark. My family backgrounds are on the stops. Yes, absolutely. So, Rick, thank you so much for watching as well. And I do have another Hamilton Tiger Cat personnel coming on my show next week. March, what is it? Not March. I keep thinking it's March. It feels like March with the weather. May 20th at 1:15. Rick Zamperin, the voice of the Hamilton Tiger Cats and CHCH Morning News, will be on to talk about the Hamilton Tiger Cats and a little bit about the CFL and a lot of changes with the CFL going on, Nick. And I know how you feel about some of the changes. I'm going to give your perspective on it, and then I'll give you my perspective on it. But a lot of changes coming to the league this year and in 2027. And I'll let you start off first with some of the changes with the CFL game.
Yeah, definitely a big kind of plan, as we know, that was announced in the late portion of last season. So some of the rules have been ratified by the Board of Governors now. So now we know for certain what is to be implemented going into this season. And we know based on what he said, what the commissioner said, what is going forward in 2027. The big ones, though, are that there'll be a new adjusted play clock. It's going to switch into an automated 35-second play clock, more similar to what the NFL is already implementing, as opposed to the manual 20-second play clock. It's something that I think is probably one of the best changes they can make, because it should lend to more plays being played per game now, especially complemented with the second change, which has teams on opposite sides of the field in all stadiums. That's something that I think was maybe about due with some of the chippiness, the fighting across the benches. That kind of helps reduce that, and it'll make substitutions better. Now, between the 40-yard lines on each sideline, the team has exclusive control of that area. They did a change that I think you will like. As we know, I know you're not a fan of ties, so they are amending the overtime format. After the 2 mini games, they're going to run alternating 2-point conversions until a winner is determined. The other one, some automatic review changes, turnover on downs, an amendment to QB kneels can end the half or game sooner, so there's not that where they have to play the ball on the snap. And then the other big one is the change to the Rouge. That was one I forgot to mention. If you listen to our preview show or video there the other day, I forgot to mention that the big change with the Rouge now is that if it goes out of play without being touched by a member of the receiving team, it will not award the single point. The ball basically has to either stop in the end zone and the player snaps and takes a knee, or the player touches it and it goes out of bounds off their hand or arm or whatever. So if it goes through untouched, no Rouge, but if it lands in the end zone and the player has an opportunity to field it, then it'll award the Rouge. So those are kind of the big list of them. So what are your thoughts?
Well, Nick, some of those changes I'm okay with, but what I really don't like is the regular season and the playoffs. Look, there's 9 teams, and I think 7 out of 9 teams is fine. They should have gone to what the National Lacrosse League has, a unified standings, and basically 7 out of the 9 teams to me should make the playoffs. 2 teams, I don't like seeing teams that are under 500 get into the playoffs and have a chance to get hot. I generally, basically this new setup makes the regular season meaningless, and I don't like the setup. And to me, I would have had unified standings, 1 to 9. The top 7 teams get in, and the top seed gets the bye, and then 2 goes against 7, 3 against 6, 4 against 5, whatever. I know, Nick, we're probably going to disagree with it. Some of the changes I like, but what they're doing with the regular season and the playoffs I don't like. Now, as for getting rid of the tie, I'm fine with that. I'm cool with no more ties. And as for the Rouge, if the Rouge disappeared completely, I would be okay with that too. What I think the league's trying to do too, they're trying to get the younger generation. I was at a Blue Jays game last night, and they had 40,000 people there. But a lot of the younger generation, they go to the game, Nick. But a lot of them don't even watch the game. They go there to socialize, and the CFL is trying to get the younger people to come to the games. The problem is, I don't know if they're going to be able to get them to watch the actual game. I think they need to take a page out of the Blue Jays book, the Maple Leafs book, and Raptors, and they have to do more at the stadiums to get the younger generation to come, and even if they don't really watch the game, to get themselves into the stands, because the CFL is a gate-driven league. So I know some of these changes were designed to try to get the younger generation to come to more games. But I don't know, Nick. I do like some of the changes, but I just don't want to see a team win the Grey Cup with a 3 or 4 win season and get hot.
To those points, I think where you see a lot of the changes that are going into place over these couple of years, if you look at, like, for example, what BMO Field is looking like going forward with the World Cup renovations, or you look at what Hamilton's planning on doing for their amended, I guess it's the north side, where the scoreboard side is there across from the Stipley. They've added a new kind of area there, and even before these changes at Hamilton Stadium, there's kind of a back area on the far concourse, in the back, where there's kind of like a DJ booth area where they have the game on TVs, but it's kind of like behind it, so younger people can embrace the sort of party or social culture of, if the game's becoming uninteresting for whatever reason, there's alternative means of entertainment. I think you're starting to see some of the CFL stadiums, especially the ones in like the big city markets, Toronto, Hamilton, maybe BC. I don't know that quite as well. But you're starting to see some of that, where maybe some of the more traditional diehard CFL markets, Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, they don't necessarily have to fall to that kind of way of engagement. I'm not sure if necessarily changing the rules entirely are to your point. I agree in that I'm not sure it's by flipping everything so dramatically is going to necessarily result in a huge influx of young fans. As for the playoff format, I have mixed opinions on it. As a curler, like, I kind of understand how the page playoff format works, and it's but it can be a little bit confusing to explain at first. And a page out of NASCAR's book, anytime you have to sit someone down and bring an encyclopedia out to explain how it all works, is generally not a good playoff format in practice. But I don't know. I'm not necessarily bothered by it, because we already have such a large proportion of teams already making the playoffs. Like, does it really make a huge difference? Is it whether it's 6 teams or 7 teams or 8 teams, when you're already having teams that are sub 500? For years and years, we keep talking about the crossover affecting things, and whether or not dropping like a 1 division league would make things any different, any better or worse than just keeping it in the East and West. I think there's a lot of traditionalism in that, and we might even see that broken up in this page format if we see how the top 2 teams do in the rest of it. But I think what they're ultimately trying to get at is they're trying to make it so that towards the tail end of the season, we don't have this problem of all these meaningless games where a team has clinched a playoff berth or a division win with 3 games left in the season, and then you get these really weird, boring games where they don't play most of their star guys. It's kind of really sloppy football. It's kind of disengaging. Like, if you're the team that's in the playoffs, you don't care as much. If you're the team that's out, well, you're trying to still support them to get in. So it is kind of a really weird scenario, and I think because of how home field advantage has affected the last couple of playoff series, I think you're going to see teams really try to push if they're lower down and you're trying for like the 5th seed versus the 4th seed or whatever. You might see a bit more competitive to really try to up that home field position. At least that's I think the ultimate hope that we want to see.
Well, we'll wait and see, but I just don't want to see a team win the Grey Cup under 500. I know the Argos and a couple other teams have won it with 9-9 records or whatever, and I can live with that. But somebody that wins 3 or 4 games, or God forbid, someone wins 2 wins, I don't know. We'll see, Nick. I will keep an open mind to it. By the way, we got Rick watching Hamilton Sports Central. He wants to say it will be interesting seeing going from the 35-yard line to the 40-yard line to moving the missed field goal, plus with the 55-yard line now gone. I didn't think the 55-yard line was gone until the 2027 season.
Yeah. So the field changes aren't until next season, but that's still
Okay.
a fair point. By moving the field position of these scenarios, like with the missed field goals, moving it up to the 40-yard line, it's shortening the distance teams have to go for touchdowns. And again, your point with the field amendments, not only are they by getting rid of the 55-yard line, now you're 10 yards closer to the goal line. Don't forget the field goal posts have moved to the back of the end zone, and with our larger end zones, 15, you have to add 15 extra yards to wherever you're kicking the ball. It's kind of falling in that mentality of encouraging to go for touchdowns more, over just kicking field goals. But with also the Rouge being on, it makes me kind of worry that you might see the field goals be almost eliminated entirely. But I'm not necessarily sure in a 3-down league is having a lot of failed third down conversions, a failed third down conversion efficiency, if it really looks that good in terms of like on TV coverage. That's what I think. It starts to get a little concerning, with the field goal for touchdowns trade talk.
Rick's got another comment to Hamilton Sports Central watching on YouTube. Thank you, Rick. Chris, not sure if you knew this, but at the Hamilton Stadium, we have it where you get certain sections where you can get $10 tickets for kids with the purchase of an adult ticket plus a menu for $2 to $4 foods for kids. That's great for the kids, definitely, but they should do something for the adults as well. I'm not sure if Hamilton does or not, but one thing, Nick, and this concerns me too. I was in Toronto yesterday for the Blue Jays game, okay? And if I wasn't involved with the Toronto Argonauts CFL, I wouldn't even know they were exist there. All I heard was about the Blue Jays, the Raptors, the Leafs, and the Toronto Temple. And that's another thing too, Nick. The Argos now have to compete with a WNBA team, the Toronto Temple, who are going to be it's going to be the kings of the city now because they're an expansion team, and also the Toronto Scepters of the Women's Professional Hockey League as well. So there's 2 more professional teams there for the Argonauts having to compete for, and then the Argos won't be back to BMO Field to August 6th. So the Argos have done a lot of winning Grey Cups, but I don't know long-term visibility of this organization, in my opinion, Nick.
Well, it's certainly a uniquely Toronto problem. It's the only city in Canada that has to deal with this amount of sporting diversity across, yeah, like you mentioned, all the various aspects, all the various sports, different levels, men, women. It's but I mean, it's something that the Argonauts have continued to have to face. This is the better of the 30 years since I've witnessed it firsthand. And I mean, like, this talk has been going on since, I think you'd agree, probably since the Jays first established a team in Toronto, and especially amplified to the next level since the Raptors expanded. So this isn't something entirely new. And yeah, you do fear that something's gonna give, but I think there's enough there that there's not going to be this up and coming like Toronto fold myth or anything like that, because like it's an integral part. The team is an integral part of the CFL. It's the longest continually running sports franchise in North America under its original name. It's still a part of the city's identity. And I mean, we can point to other reasons for things that are affecting other sports teams and what they're doing well, but part of it is what comes down to me and you being here on this show and really wanting to market the Toronto Argonauts and market our interest in it, and that's why they're going to these lengths to make some of these changes to try to get a younger demographic in. That there is some new ideas that are appealing and to talk about, because if they just keep it as a status quo, as we've seen, that doing nothing isn't gonna draw more people in.
And then we got to talk about the Syracuse Wake Forest game. Now, I talked to Chris from the Argos, and he said it's not until 2027. And I'm assuming Chris would know that. I just assumed that game between Syracuse Orange and Wake Forest was going to be this August, but apparently it's not until August 2027.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't particularly care if you like college football and you're gonna go watch it. Go on you, but it's not something that I'm kind of indifferent about. But the fact that it is coming into 2027 is kind of an interesting point in that it coincides by that time the CFL will have its adjusted field dimensions in. And I think that's kind of where you see, if we're talking about the part of these field changes, especially, and the playoff format. Yeah, it looks ugly now when 7 or 8 of 9 teams make the playoffs, but when if the expansion thing does roll out, and we're able to get a team in Halifax, get a team in Quebec, get a team, I don't know,
I mean,
in
the only
Eastern C,
yeah.
that then like 12 teams, only 4 miss the playoffs, then it starts to change how things go. So
Yeah. The only thing that expansion, I've heard about it since I was 12 years old, back in 1984, and it's like 40 years later. So we'll hope it works. But Nick, one thing the Argos are doing, they are doing what? Game themes this year, I believe. Every game
yeah,
there's some kind of
speaking of theme games, I don't know if you noticed anybody particular on some of the advertisements. Not to toot my own horn.
And by the way, Rich is on. He's watching on YouTube. Rich wants to say, hello, guys. I went to Real Sports the other day. Did not see any Argos or much Argos merch, but I did see a wall of Bills jerseys and their merchandise as well. And that's my concern, is the Bills are going to get more attention and the Argos are going to get less attention.
Oh, they're never going to get an NFL team here. So
I agree, Nick.
right?
I totally agree with you, because first of all, it would cost $2 billion to bring a team to Toronto. Plus, you don't have a stadium that's NFL suitable. That would cost at least another $2 billion. That's $4 billion. You know, the ticket prices with the dollar exchange, it would be worse than it is now. For the Bills home opener against the Lions, the cheapest ticket is $909.99 Canadian when you take that translation.
To your point, with the sporting diversity within the oversaturated sports market that is here in Toronto, it can very well be an argument made that Toronto just isn't a football city like one might think. Because when we've seen the Bills, we've seen them have exhibition games or regular season games in Toronto, and nobody win, in part because of those ticket prices, and where we've seen people have justified it to go to a Jays big playoff game or a big Leafs playoff game or Raptors playoff game. People are willing to shell that money out, but nobody at this point has been willing to shell that money out, even for Bills games, unless you're one of the most committed diehard fans of that team. So and I've said it before, like the thing that's good with the Toronto Argonauts is that the affordability and accessibility of it is second to none. It's cool that I can go to practices or training camps and that, say hi to guys like Mickey Donovan and Mike Miller and certain players that I know, friends who I went to school with, people like Curly Giddens and Jack Cassar, and I can go and say hi to them and just talk about life with those guys. That, like, what other sport in this city do you have that opportunity to hang out with people that you look up to, heroes, childhood heroes playing football growing up? There's nothing like that. And I think that's one of the things that I think, if we're looking at a marketing point or something that you can take for CFL football and really use to appeal to people, that's something that I think is a uniquely CFL thing that I think sometimes goes unpublished or unnoticed by the city.
Hey, Nick, since we're on right now, we might as well let everybody know too. I found out from Chris Belinovich last week too, and this has been with the NFL for many years, obviously, and their practices are closed to the fans. And I think the Cats have been doing it too. Anybody that wants to go to the Argos practice, they're welcome, and it's free. and the practice is free, but they don't want you taking pictures or doing video footage of their formations and stuff like that. So yeah, if you want to come, you can obviously bring your phones, but the team under Mike Miller prefers you not to take pictures or video footage of their formations and practices going on.
Yeah, that's always been an unspoken rule with it. Usually they're pretty good about it. But yeah, they don't want it's simple strategy and stuff. Like you don't want any of the trick plays, any like reverse or onside kicks or anything like that practice.
Because unfortunately, Nick, because if people still continue to do that, they could very well close off the practices to the fans.
Yeah, which is something that we don't want to take for granted. So yeah, definitely something that. But I think most people who go to practices already are kind of aware of that, which is good. But yeah, I mean, say if you want to take photos, generally as soon as practice is done, most players, coaches, potentially maybe to a lesser extent, but most people are generally open to chatting with or posing for a photo or whatever. Take it then, not in the middle of plays.
Before we get to Rick's next question, I just want to air one of my interviews with linebacker number 8, Cameron Judge. And the interview was courtesy of Chris Belnovich, the manager of media communications, and also available on my YouTube channel, Chris Pomay Live with CDP Talk Show. Subscribe, like, and share. And here's a interview with Cameron Judge, who's back for his second full year with the Toronto Argonauts and number 8. And we're just going to play this interview. Give me 1 second. Okay, 1 second.
The University of Guelph for the opening day of Toronto Argonauts 2026 training camp, and I have one of the Toronto Argonauts linebackers, number 8, Cameron Judge. Cameron, just thoughts quickly on last year and what you're looking to do in 2026 with the Argos.
Well, obviously last year wasn't what any of us, planned for, expected, so definitely this year what we're trying to do is fix on areas where we were not strong at, build a stronger culture than I think we had, and just everyone buy in and give maximum effort and be bought into the program, which I think we got off to a good start to today.
Thoughts on the new head coach Mike Miller and some of the new additions to the coaching staff in 2026?
Coach Miller has been amazing. He was the guy, even as the quarterbacks coach last year, he would come up to me after practice, ask, how my day's going, what I'm how I'm feeling. And that was, it was something I always thought was really cool. So when I saw him, become the head coach, I knew he was built for it. And yesterday's meetings really showed that as well. And it's an honor to play for him. And I'm really excited to be here.
Quick thoughts on Jim Barker and John Hefnagel coming to the Argonauts organization.
Oh, I think it's a huge plus. I mean, Huff, we were out in Calgary together. Great guy. I haven't had the chance to really get to know Barker too well, but obviously I know who he is. So, when you get two minds like that in the building, it's, nothing but a benefit. So it's, it's an honor to have them around.
What was it like coming back to the Argos for your second stint?
It was good, at first, it was a little it was a weird feeling, coming back after the first time, but yeah, I'm really happy to be back. And, it's been going well so far. And, it's been joy making this my home.
Thoughts on the training camp facilities here at the University of Guelph?
Oh, they're amazing. Yeah, this is a beautiful facility. I love coming here. They got a beautiful weight room, nice recovery stuff. The beds, aren't the greatest, but I think that's pretty much universities worldwide. But yeah, I love the facility here, and it's a pleasure being here, and grateful for them having us out here.
What's 3 words to describe Cameron Judge as a football player?
I'd say physical, passionate, and physical, passionate, and instinctive.
And what's a fun fact about yourself the Argo fans might not know about you?
I can juggle decently well. I learned to play a circus clown back in my early days of school. So yeah, I'm a pretty decent juggler.
You can have one walkout song like baseball players do. What would it be, Cameron?
Ooh, one walkout song. Jeez, that's a tough one. I don't know. That's a tough one. I'll just tell him to pick something by Gucci Mane, probably. Usually his music gets me pretty fired up to play. So, pick one from him and I'll be ready to go.
And finally, as we wrap this up, if you had to pick one college team, Notre Dame or Michigan?
I'm not picking either of them.
Okay, and finally, Cameron, what would you tell the Toronto Argonaut fan base what to expect from this team in 2026?
I would expect a group of guys coming out there, giving it their all every day, and completely bought in the program and playing with passion and physicality each and every down.
And finally, where can our Argo fans follow you on social media?
You can follow me on X, just my name, Cameron Judge. I'm on Instagram, Cam Judge, and that's about where I'm at.
Well, Cameron, thank you so much for doing this interview. Continued success and good luck in the 2026 season with the Toronto Argonauts.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks. Cameron Judge of the Toronto Argonauts.
Well, Nick, what did you thought of that interview with Cameron Judge?
Cool. Yeah, great interview. He is definitely one of the key members of the Argonauts defense this season. And I will mention him and the rest of the defense core really has to step it up this year. I mean, use it to maybe segue in some of the changes of the team this year. As we know, the heart and soul of the Argonauts defense since the Ryan Dinwiddie era, Winnie McManus has decided to leave us across the QEW for the evil Hamilton Tiger Cats.
You know what? There was a Tiger Cat years ago, Hall of Famer for them, Ben Zambiazzi, a number 31. Rick would know who he is. He ended up playing for the Argo that is into his career, and I'm like, this doesn't look right. There's certain players that don't look right in other teams' uniforms. And it was weird seeing Ben Zambiazzi many years ago go from Hamilton to Toronto. And now it's going to be weird seeing Wynton McManus, the captain and the soul of the Argos defense, in the black and gold. But it's a good move for Hamilton. And Nick, I wanted to get your thoughts on Cameron Judge. Do you feel that he could be the leader of this defense this year with his veteran presence?
Yeah, I'll throw another name out there too. Chris Van Zyle's another one that really came to my mind when he went to Hamilton. Ended up having a pretty lengthy career in both. But yeah, I think Cam Judge very much could stand up in that role. There's a lot of different guys who've came in as well that really make this defensive change really, really interesting. Starts right at the top with Greg Quick coming from Montreal to be the defensive coordinator. When you look at it as a whole, like, yeah, you have Cameron Judge who could step up as a leader. You have the return of a Darius Pickett, who would also be a huge returning guy, probably at that same position. You have Deshaun Amos back. You have Robert Priester back. You've got a lot of former DBs that were kind of from that team back in the kind of the dream year that never was, the 16-2 team that didn't that lost that heartbreaking game to Montreal in 2023. So you got a lot of those guys back in the lineup. You've got Benji Franklin returning. You got Derek Sluka coming back. So you've got a really interesting look there in that secondary, not to mention guys like Isaac D'Arcangelo and Jack Cassar. So where you had kind of a lot of the challenges last year in the secondary, you've got a lot of veterans back in the room, although they're under a very different and new system. Shout out to Javon Johnson as well as this new secondary coordinator. And then Demetrius Maxey in at defensive line coach coming from Edmonton. And you've got guys coming back like Ralph Hawley, Dwayne Hendricks, Andrew Chatfield, Jeremiah Ojo, Paris Shand. So there's a lot of depth in that defensive lineup right now. Tavares McFadden, another guy I missed there. And apparently Ethan John, one of the new guys, impressed us. I think he was our second round draft pick. We traded up to get him right after Isaiah Smith. So there's a lot of guys coming in this defense that to make it a very menacing unit where they maybe weren't so much against the deep ball last season.
Nick, what are your thoughts on Mike Miller and some of the coaching changes as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird how the Dinwiddie thing kind of happened, and I think it was a little disappointing to see it go because one like me, and I know like Dr. James Fraser would be another example of this. There were some of us that were looking really closely at the statistics and the records and how close he was coming to hitting some of those all-time Argonaut coaching records. For him to go to for him to go to Ottawa too. It was a little bit sad. But I do like the way Mike Miller has really stepped up. There's a really good set of interviews that I think just came on TSN today that Dave Naylor and Enoch Malama had, where they were interviewing Chad Kelly and Mike Miller about some of the changes. And I think we're sometimes, you found where the team and Dinwiddie got maybe a little emotional or like really fired up. I feel like you don't see that same kind of thing with Mike Miller. I think there's a lot more kind of calm and composure. He reminds me a lot of Mark Trestman in that kind of really like stayed mellow and chill, no matter whether you were up by 20 or down by 20. I get a lot of very similar feelings in the coaching style, and I think it's already reflected a lot in camp. There's a lot of great support going out where, like any sporting team, you have that accountability aspect. Like if you're wide receivers, whether you're getting targets from Chad or from Nick Arbuckle or whoever, but you have a lot of that picking each other up and wanting everybody to be at their best. And I think you see that right now in camp, and it's really exciting to see.
Now, the Argos, we talked about some of their additions and subtractions. What did you think about their draft overall? Do you feel the Argos possibly addressed some of their needs in that draft?
Yeah, I honestly think so. It's weird because there were a lot of people who really, for whatever reason, didn't like the draft choices. I actually quite like them. I know it's a bit of an unfortunate situation where Nick Henning, their second overall pick, ended up signing with the Raiders in the NFL. So they'll probably won't be a first year guy, which is too bad. But there's still a lot of good coming in there, a couple new pieces out on the offensive line and elsewhere. But I really like their second round picks. Isaiah Smith is already turning heads with his running game. And I think Ethan John and Louis-Philippe Gauthier were a couple of other really nice additions that they've drafted. Further down the list, you're kind of taking flyers on guys so you don't know whether, like I'm not sure whether guys like Frank Vergundehill is going to make the O-line cut. Tyreek Quaison, I don't know. Nathan Walker, kicker punter, probably not, but it's a good experience to learn from guys like Liam and John Haggerty. Sebastian Parasolidis from Laurier, like those are guys who I'm not sure might end up making it or not, but definitely at the top end, I really like the decisions they made. And I think now that we see that Spencer Brown got cut, like that's where now it's an opportunity for Isaiah Smith to really shine and to showcase his stuff now.
What about the quarterback cuts as well, Nick? Were any surprises on the quarterback cuts so far?
Yeah, I mean, I know a couple people were shocked by Jarrett Dagey being cut. I was maybe less so on that. I think when you've got you've got a clear 1 and a 1A in Chad and Arbuckle, I still think Arbuckle, the way he's playing and the way he's looked in camp, like he could still be leading this team. And we know all about last year, like his numbers were fine, and he would have probably led the league in passing yards had he managed to play the entire season. Like Arbuckle was never the issue with the offense last year. In most games, they were still putting up 30 points a game. So I think then it becomes really hard because then you're really with only 3 quarterbacks on your roster. If you've got Chad and Nick, you probably want someone who's more of a utility, a short yardage guy, someone you could maybe do something with. And I guess they just decided that Dagey was more of a kind of conventional CFL passing quarterback and not something who can fill that role. So that narrows it down to now with Dugan being cut as well. You got Tucker Horn, and then you've got this Anthony Garrico guy from Clarion. I do have to mention, I had to do a deeper dive on his profile because on the Argonauts website, they have a bunch of guys who are listed as number 0 because they just don't have his official number out yet. But he's listed as 5 feet tall, which I thought was hilarious. Like imagining a 5 foot tall quarterback in the CFL. So maybe there's looks at Dugan or him as a potential short yardage guy. But I think it's just the nature. And I guess they also have that 5th quarterback, whoever it is in their youth They always have a youth sports quarterback as like a mentorship program. So they technically have 5 right now. So I think that's fair numbers, and it'll probably be between that Galarian guy and or Garrico and Tucker Horn, whether they keep him as a third string. Yeah.
Rick has another question. I can't really answer because I've only been to one of the Argos practices last Sunday. But Rick wants to know, since you've both been to Argo camp, which one player has not played for which one player who has not played for the Argos is their career? The fans take a look in their preseason game, and Rick also asked me too, who's stood out for the Argos in training camp so far.
Yeah, I mean, aside from all the conventional names, I think people have heard of, like kind of mentioned before, and I know you witnessed from interviewing him, Isaiah Smith, I think, is one big guy to watch. The running back from the University of Guelph. We'll see how it complements with guys like Jerron Mitchell, who was on the practice roster last year, Peyton Logan, Samuel Hicks. And then in terms of the receiver side, I really like how Tyler Kaman looks. Hopefully I pronounced it right. Kahmann. He was a guy who was on the practice roster late last year, and someone I got to meet along the walk from exhibition to the practice facilities one day. So I put them in there. And then on the DB side, I would really encourage people to take a look at guys like Louis Philippe Gauthier and Ethan John, 2 defensive backs who were drafted from Montreal and Windsor, respectively. Those are some of the young guys I would consider watching. But I think, and then O-line is probably a little bit more challenging to really evaluate. But I think it is a little surprising with Josh Donovan, offensive lineman from the Alouettes last year, being cut. That leaves some interesting room for probably at least 1 or 2 new guys coming into the O-line.
And we've got Rich watching again on YouTube. Thanks, Rick. And Rich says hopefully the O-line can stay healthy. I agree with Rich's comment there. That's going to be huge, the O-line and the D-line. Is there still one area of this team, Nick, that you're still not quite sure heading into the preseason game going into against Hamilton on May 23rd?
Yeah, I think the big question is ultimately going to be the O-line, and I think it's going to be some of the guys who really struggled last year. And there's a multitude of reasons. In part, it was because of injuries. In part, because it was just, I don't know, not just straight up not playing well or getting beat, not having speed. But when I look at the guys here, like you have Peter Nicastro as at center, you've got like John Boss and Ryan Hunter at the tackles. They at times struggled, and we don't know what they were dealing with injuries. Brandon Camp comes in from Saskatchewan. Dakota Shepley, he is someone with a lot of potential. So you've got all these guys coming in, and then a lot of the other guys are really kind of unknowns going down the list of guys in camp. Victor Olaniran, was one of their draft picks from Manitoba. And then you've got Marcus Harper, Desmond Bland, Colton McGistris, Rush Reimer, Philip Walder, Frank Fergundahill, and Gavin Cokes. So these are all kind of unknowns. And you got to think with those guys I've mentioned before from the kind of 6 guys last year, you got to think there's probably 2 making that roster, and it's going to be some tough decisions. And not to mention, it's a new offensive line coach. Chris Sweet is out, and Dominic Picard is in.
Dick, thoughts on Jim Barker returning to the Argos and John Huffnagel, who I've talked to a number of other people were shocked that he left Calgary, but getting him and Jim Barker in Toronto, I think is an excellent move on both sides.
Yeah, it's definitely really exciting. I think it'll be really cool to hopefully see Jim at or John at Argo's practice. Jim's a little bit tricky to see because he typically watches from there's that kind of building extended beside the grandstands. So he always sits way up at the top, and I don't know, maybe he just doesn't want people bugging him, but or it could be mobility. I don't know, but he always hangs up there. So it's hard to get in contact with him. But hopefully, looking forward to seeing John Hufnagel at some point. But yeah, it was really cool hearing if you listen to Mike Hogan's or read Mike Hogan's piece on the draft day, it's pretty cool because I think between Pinball, Hogan, Marcus, Huff, and Jim Barker, you've got, I think, something stupid like 25 Grey Cup rings between all of them or something. Like it's an absurd number, which was amazing. So as we kind of saw in the draft, I'm optimistic about the picks that they made, even if some were maybe a little bit disappointed in it. I think they've addressed some of the needs. Like it's funny how so many people seem to complain about them drafting a running back when all this time people were talking about and like people were disagreeing with me and you need a running back, you don't need to improve the O-line, you make it better by drafting O-line. Well, they're drafting a running back and they got a running back, so
Yes,
we'll see what comes out of it. But a lot of pieces on the O-line are very much the same, so it does kind of have me a little bit worried and concerned, but it's hopefully everybody's not dealing with injuries. I think that's kind of the big thing that you worry, because there's pass protection for whether it's Chad or Nick. It's going to be important this year because it was something that really struggled. I think, as I've said many times before, the two problems last year were the O-line and the DBs.
And they had no running game as well. Now everyone's excited. Chad Kelly's coming back. He's healthy and all this, but between his injury and his 9-game suspension, he's missed a lot of football the last 2 years. Obviously, he's talented. He was an MOP a couple years ago. So if Chad Kelly can come back, and I don't know if he'll be at the same level he was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but if he can come back and also be a threat with his legs, because as much as we all like Arbuckle, Nick's not as mobile, in my opinion, as Chad Kelly is. So I think having Chad Kelly comes back, and I think that's why it's important to get that offensive line strengthened, because you don't need Chad taking unnecessary hits or getting hurt and being put out again as well, because he's missed a lot of football the last 2 years, Nick, whether it was through the broken leg, unfortunately, at the East Final, or the 9-game suspension as well. So I think keeping Chad Kelly healthy in 2026 is going to be huge. And even if he can play close or not to that level a few years ago, that will add to the Argos as well. And Chad does have probably one of the best arms in the CFL, and also his mobility too. But it'll be interesting to see if he he becomes more of a pocket quarterback now after that broken leg injury.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not particularly worried. The way I've seen it go in camp, I've been actually really impressed with the quarterback play, both from Chad and Nick. I think with Chad has kind of elevated Nick Arbuckle's play, and I think we saw that reflect in the last year. That was probably the best season of Nick Arbuckle's entire career as a quarterback. And the only thing where really Nick lacks, I'd say less so than the running, compared to Chad, is that ability to throw the deep ball hard and fast. And from what I've seen so far in camp, I mean, we've only been really to one practice, missed a couple of the other ones this week, but we'll see in the double blue game. I think that I don't think the quarterbacking is at all going to be an issue in any of the scrimmages, the one-on-ones. Never have I looked and like, oh, that was not a good pass from Nick or not a good pass from Chad. It's always seemed to be like a good 50-50 ball. And it really came down to whether it was the DB in the right spot on coverage or the wide receiver was able to make a good play. I was honestly really have been impressed by the quarterback play of both. And I think it's reflective of having a quarterbacks coach as your head coach. So I'm not particularly worried, as some might be. But again, ultimately, I think the challenge this year especially is that in the bigger picture, you're starting your first 6 games on the road and you're playing a lot of visiting games against some difficult crowds in Saskatchewan and Winnipeg, Ottawa, Montreal. I think the one that'll be big interest to me, of course, is Montreal. But when we compare it to the rest of the league, I think a lot of other teams have potentially regressed in the offseason. I don't think Montreal's as intimidating as a team they were defensively. Ottawa really don't know with a new GM and head coach in Dinwiddie. Hamilton, I still have questions. It's really down to, I think Saskatchewan's still probably going to be the top dog going forward. But yeah, there's that's what's nice about it being a new season. It opens it up, and everybody has an optimism that this can be their year, which is the great thing about the CFL.
Technically 6 road games, but I say 9 games because they're going to be the road team. Hamilton and Saskatchewan and Winnipeg, there's going to be more of their fans there than Argo fans. So really, it's 9 games, I think, Nick, that they're going to be the road team. I think if the Argos can be 5-4 or 4-5, then they'll have a big advantage coming back to BMO Field as well. And that's something too. They struggled last year in games that they could have won. Because I talked to Penball and he said there's a lot of games that we were in right to the end of it and they just didn't make they didn't have the bounce, the Argo bounce. So I optimistically, I think they can be 5-4 before they return to BMO Field on Thursday, August 6th against Calgary. What do you think, Nick? Do you think they can be 5-4? Or do you see them being better than that?
Yeah, I don't know about better, just because it is so much travel involved, and not only that, but you're also using Guelph as your sort of pseudo headquarters. You're not even at your normal practice facilities during that time. But if they can get to 500, I think that's reasonable, especially in some of these road games. The nice thing about it is I don't think they're playing any team twice, so you have that opportunity where you're strategizing differently. So I think that works out to a little bit of an advantage where it's not like, oh great, we got to play this team again kind of mentality. Yeah, I think the only thing I think that's a little disappointing on the home away from home games is that it's a little bit insulting that they don't, to my knowledge, they're not going to have a pro Argonauts in-game stadium feeds, like regardless of who the fans are in that stadium. I think it's a little disappointing and insulting to not do that. It's enough of a kick in the teeth that we lose these many home games for the upteenth time, it feels like. So it feels like there could be a little bit more respect towards the Argo fan base for having to deal with these a multitude of gut punches over the years. That's and to where we were talking about earlier about it being hard to be an Argos fan. It doesn't help that we keep losing all these opportunities, being displaced. That is damaging as anything to your product.
And Rick's got another comment. Hamilton Sports Central, watching on YouTube. He says for Kelly, probably 3 or 4 games for him to get back to where he was before his injury. The only thing Rick I would say is he's a couple years older, and like I said, 2 years is a lot. I do think it's going to take him a little bit of time. Now it's going to be interesting, Nick, and I know nobody from the team can tell me this, but are they going to, my opinion, I feel they should get him some work in the preseason. I'm not saying play both preseason games or the full games, but I feel that he should get at least 1 quarter of action in the preseason before the regular season.
Yeah, he's absolutely going to take first string reps for a quarter.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be interesting to see, like, between Chad and Nick, like, will Nick go for like half the game? How much will he get with the first string offense? But I think it will ultimately come down. The thing I'll be watching in the beginning part of this season is pass protection, but I really doubt that it's going to take like as long as 3 or 4 games for Chad to really get to an elite level form. I think we're going to see it sooner than that. It's you're a professional athlete, and like if you're someone like him, like your brain is wired around football 24/7, and everything he's done in his rehab over the last year and a half, 16, 18 months, whatever, is built to that. So he'll definitely get at least a full quarter and maybe even more. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's no way he's only going to take like 3 snaps in preseason. Not
But what I'll be keeping an eye on him physically, he's fine, but there's going to be times in a game that he's going to have a chance to run the football. I'm going to watch him to see if he wants to take off with the football or he becomes a pocket passer, because the injury he had, Nick, is very serious. Joe Theismann had that injury, 1985. Obviously, he was older as a quarterback in the NFL back in 85 than Chad Kelly, but that injury effectively ended his career. Obviously, Chad is coming back, but physically he'll be fine. It's going to be the mental part of it, because that was a serious injury he went through too. So I'm going to be watching him to see if he's back to, like, I know he's not going to run the ball like go crazy, but there's going to be opportunities where nobody's open and he can run, and I want to see if he's willing to do that.
Well, I think that's why they've waited this long for it, and he ended up missing the entirety of last season for it. It's now 100%. And as an athlete, regardless of what your sport is, you can't have that in your mindset. It's just not the way an athlete is wired. You're not trained to have any hesitation of, oh, if I do this, I might end up getting hurt again. You don't think that. You just play your game and play it regardless. You don't. Yeah. So there's no doubt in that in my mind, and I doubt that's there in his mind either. It's that psychologically hardwiring of the game.
And as we wrap up the show, Nick, you want to promote the blue and white game? I didn't think it was coming up so soon, but I guess it's this Sunday, right, at Alumni Stadium?
Yeah, talking about the changes coming up, it'll be even sooner next year with the new seemingly shorter schedule if they're starting on Victoria Day. But yeah, so this Sunday, today's the 17th, it is the double blue game. The Argonauts are going to be playing against the Argonauts at Guelph Stadium. It's open to the public. The pre-game warm-ups start around 2:45 in the afternoon, and it'll be a 1-hour scrimmage game. It's kind of like the offensive players against the defensive players running their schemes. Still touch football though, but they'll have some of the guys the coaches will act as referees. They'll have guys holding yard markers and whatever, so it'll be kind of like a mini game. And so it's a good opportunity to watch some of the plays get ran under center. You'll see a lot of passing. You'll see how the strategies and coverage play out. You might get teased at who might be playing in certain positions. They might experiment with guys moving around different formations. Maybe we'll see like a 5-man defensive line or a 3-man defensive line in certain scenarios. So you'll see all those kind of things play out and substitutions and all that. So if you have the opportunity, it's a great chance to go. As far as I know, it's still, I think, 9:30 practices, but only tomorrow, the 15th. The Saturday is a closed day, so do not go on Saturday or you'll be disappointed. So double blue games the 17th, and then they'll be training for preseason. I think they play the 23rd in Hamilton. I think it's a matinee game.
At 4 o'clock. Yeah. Friday,
okay.
Saturday, May 23rd, Toronto, Hamilton at 4 o'clock. And then the Argos preseason game in Guelph will be Friday, May 29th, 7 o'clock, Alumni Stadium, Hamilton. Toronto again, part 2. And that game is at 7 o'clock, and you can get your tickets through griffins.ca, guelphgriffins.ca. And it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward next year with the schedule, because a lot of the university kids don't get out of their dorms until April. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next year with the Argos training camp.
Yeah, for me, it's with the draft I get concerned about, because typically you've always had to have the CFL draft after the NFL draft in case of players who have gone, so you can kind of wipe them off your board. But that might be a risk now that teams will have to take going forward. And maybe we'll see some guys who get undrafted in the CFL, then undrafted in the NFL, and then signed into camp. It could play out kind of weirdly. One thing I'll shout out as well is anybody who is part of the CFL Fans Fight Cancer group, join if you haven't. And this is maybe your last minute attempts across the CFL Fans Fight Cancer group. They're doing the bowling night. Toronto's Hamilton's is at the Streetsville Bowl on the 30th. at 7 o'clock. If you're interested, make sure you talk to Ginger Argo if you haven't, or post on the CFL Fans Fight Cancer page, and someone will contact you and get you more information. I think it's $35 a head. We just want to make sure that we have enough bowling lanes available, and it'd be a great sport. Money will be going towards CFL Fans Fight Cancer, all for a great cause. So be sure to do that if you are interested and in the area.
All right, Nick. Well, this was our training camp show. Thank you so much. And I guess we'll do our regular season. The first regular season game is Friday, June 12th between Toronto and Montreal at 7 o'clock. So maybe we should try to do a show a couple of days before the season opener in Montreal, ideally.
Yeah, that, or maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe we'll do something in between the two preseason games. I know my schedule is a bit more open now that it's the summertime. Lots of time to talk football. But yeah, in the event of ending our show early, yeah, I will just quickly plug in again. Take a look at my small history podcast. Tomorrow I should have an episode out there and some new unique content if you're looking for something outside of the Argos to listen to.
And then anybody that's watching the show live stream on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, X, and Instagram, or on audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Good Pods, wherever podcasts are available. If you have a business and you're looking to advertise on the Argo Bounce Podcast show, please email me at cpomay19@gmail.com or DM me directly or Nick as well, because I would love to have a business company sponsor your product and company here on the Argo Bounce Podcast show. And Nick, I look forward to doing season 5, episode 2 with you in June. And hopefully we'll see you Sunday at Alumni Stadium. And everybody, please check out Nick's social media sites as well, and also my YouTube channel, Chris Pomay Live with CDP Talk Show. You can check out my interviews with Cameron Judge and Isaiah Smith, and with Nick Small from last Sunday at the training camp as well, Nick. And good to see you, buddy. And hopefully we'll see you again this Sunday as well.
Yep. Thanks, Argos Nation. As always, a pleasure to be here. And take care, everyone. And for the first time this season, go Argos.
Go Argos, Nick. We'll see you Sunday at Alumni Stadium. All right, everyone. That wraps up season 5, episode 1, Toronto Argonauts training camp edition of the Argo Bounce Podcast show with Chris Pomay and Nick Small, a weekly independent talk show devoted to the CFL's 19-time Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts. And again, the Argos website is argonauts.ca. That's argonauts.ca for more information on the team. And CFL website is CFL.ca. And the Argos have 2 preseason games coming up. Saturday, May 23rd at Hamilton at 4 o'clock. You can get tickets through tigercats.ca. And Friday, May 29th, Hamilton, Toronto, 7 p.m. at Alumni Stadium here in Guelph. You get your tickets through guelphgriffins.ca as well. Speaking of Hamilton Tigercats, next week on May 20th, at 1:15 p.m. Eastern, I will have the voice of the Hamilton Tiger Cats on the Tiger Cats Audio Network and CHCH Morning News co-host Rick Zamperin to come on, and we're going to talk about the latest on the Hamilton Tiger Cats for the 2020-26 season as well. And my next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment talk show is going to be tomorrow, Friday, May 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern with my special guest, pro wrestler and female champion, Zandra Lee. So don't you dare miss that show as well. And I want to say thank you to Rich and Rick and everyone watching the Argo Bounce Podcast show again live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, X, and Instagram. And again, on the Argo Bounce Podcast is on audio platforms again, as such as Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Good Pods, and wherever podcasts are available. And again, if you're looking to advertise your business and company on the Argo Bounce Podcast show, you can reach me at cpom19@gmail.com. And like Nick says, as always, Go Argos, and hopefully we'll see some of you out at the University of Guelph Alumni Stadium this Sunday for the double blue game, the double blue scrimmage game at Alumni Stadium at the University of Guelph. And I've had a busy week, and I'm glad to be back doing the Argo Bounce podcast show. I hope everybody has a great night, and we'll see you soon.
Go, go, go. Pull together, fight the foe. Scoring touchdowns for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the gray cups pop. Go Argos, go, go, go. Scoring touchdowns for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top.